With everyone currently panicking about AI potentially hitting a wall and causing Sam Altman to tweet that it isn't, I'm here to bring you yet another dose of weekly copium that might give us some hope if scaling transformers does ultimately fail in the end. To give you the bigger picture, the current problem that GPT or any other text-based transformer has is that they are all generated from left to right. Anything that has been generated on the left is treated as the new input to predict the next word on the right. And the model that performs this process is generally called Auto-regressive model, or ARM for short. Even though this process has been proven to be very effective as it already does the homework for all the high schoolers on Earth, the fact that it generates from left to right still indirectly affects its ability to solve logical reasoning tasks, which is the last big hurdle that AI is still struggling to overcome. And that is because this step-by-step generation from left to right cannot plan ahead of time. For example, if you ask it to count how many words are in the answer it is about to respond with, it'll get it wrong every single time. This happens because the word that holds the answer would be generated first before the whole sentence finishes generating. And at that stage, the AI doesn't even have a full picture of what it's about to generate. It'll then always have to guess the number. So instead of generating the sentence from left to right, imagine generating it by starting with a draft and filling in the blanks. Then the left to right nature of ARM would no longer be a problem, right? This exact approach is what masked diffusion models, aka MDM, has introduced for generating text. And yes, you heard that right. Diffusion models that are used for image generation are now also used for text generation. Funny how image generation started copying text generation's transformers, but now we got the Uno reverse card of text generation started copying image generation. But the jump for diffusion models from image generation to text generation is not as straightforward as you might think. You see, images exist in continuous data space where their color values are related to each other and closely related to its neighbors. It is this continuity that allows diffusion models to easily add and remove noise from the data gradually, making them easy to generate and manipulate. Text, on the other hand, is in a discrete data space. That means it's composed of distinct symbols like letters, words, and punctuation, which technically doesn't relate to each other, making smooth transitions practically impossible. So the trade-off is that diffusion models need to adapt the process of handling discrete states, which introduces complexity as the relation between text tokens are pretty much meaningless, since language is just something humans came up with. Like filling in a missing word can be much harder than filling in a missing pixel because depending on the significance of the missing word, what you fill in can drastically change the meaning of the sentence, whereas filling in a pixel in an image may not even affect its overall visual appearance and can be calculated mathematically. So masking more cleverly is one of the best ways diffusion models can overcome this problem. The core idea of discrete diffusion models were proposed back in July 2021, but to effectively calculate the loss for text using diffusion, a new method was proposed back in October 2023. In the paper, they mentioned that by randomly masking tokens in the sentence during the learning process, the model will observe enough data that it will hopefully be able to unmask them accurately, which ultimately would look like it is generating text by filling in the blanks. However, the problem of semantic importance would still hunt them down with this approach. So in this paper published in June 2024, they proposed something called a state-dependent masking schedule, where the tokens that are semantically important or harder to predict are assigned lower masking probabilities, meaning they are less likely to be masked when the model is learning. This approach then allows the model to focus on the keywords first and then build the rest of the text around those keywords to form a complete response. And naturally, it changed how the inference process works. So typically for ChatGPT and alike, it generates from left to right, but for discrete diffusion models, the text is generated based on specific conditions. Like for the MDM, your prompt becomes a part of the answer for a question you are asking. Like if you prompt result for school children across the country, it'll generate a response surrounding your words to answer your question. The same if you just prompt Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. It'll put this prompt in a fixed window with masked tokens around it. Then the model will try to unmask the tokens, which would complete the response by filling in the surrounding tokens. So the ideal prompting methods might be nothing like what you're used to, but technically it can still be prompted in the same way as an auto-regressive model. This might not be the optimal methods though, since being able to fill in tokens bidirectionally provides more flexibility compared to the typical auto-regressive models that generate from left to right. So how does this diffusion-based text generator perform practically? In this paper, they share that it has performance comparable to GPT-2 that was published in February 2019, and compared to what we have now, GPT-2 was pretty unusable, but since it's a small model and easy to to train, it's a good model for comparing to a brand new technique. Which brings us to yet another paper published a month ago called Scaling Up Mask Diffusion Models on Text, where they have scaled up the text diffusion model to 1.1 billion parameters to see if it's actually promising. And this is where I hand you my can of copium and we start inhaling. In the most fair comparison, where the model size and the compute flops used to train the models are exactly the same, it shows that MDM and ARM have very similar scaling laws in these experiments with respect to their model size. And this scaling law tells us that the optimal MDM is generally half of the size of the optimal ARM model if money is not a concern. But for them to have the same performance level, the optimal MDM is 16 times more expensive than the optimal ARM model. However, the 1.1 billion parameters MDM is able to outperform the larger 1.5 billion parameters GPT-2 model on 4 out of 8 zero-shot benchmarks, and also completely breaking the reverse curse when tested, which is a problem where after learning a fact in one direction, the model would fail to infer the reverse, beating GPT-3 and Llama 2 that are 160 times and 11 times larger, which is pretty insane. So basically, MDMs match the performance of ARMs while being 40% faster or achieving higher quality than ARMs at a higher computational cost with the same model size. So looking at this strong scaling potential, MDMs are possibly a viable alternative for ARMs, even with a higher initial computational cost to train the model. And of course, the cost could be minimized with more optimizations. And since MDM is not the only discrete diffusion method for language modeling, there is still a lot more room to explore. Like there is this research about how discrete diffusion performs near perfect on Sudoku, while ARMs can only reach 45% accuracy, or using discrete diffusion as a speculative decoding method to increase generation speed. So yeah, this field is definitely on its rise and may even become the next big topic in 2025. So stay tuned on my channel or my research paper newsletter. And if today's topic does interest you to get into language modeling or even machine learning in general, today's sponsor Brilliant might be the perfect gateway for you. Brilliant is a learning platform where you learn by doing with thousands of interactive lessons ranging from math, data analysis, programming, and AI. This means that you'll be solving problems hands-on and play with concepts interactively, which is also proven to be 6 times more effective than watching lecture videos. With all the content on Brilliant being carefully crafted by an award-winning team of teachers, researchers, and professionals from MIT, Google, and more, Brilliant helps you build your critical thinking skills through problem solving and not memorizing. Along with easy-to-access lessons, whether you want to spend 5 minutes a day or chomp it all down during your free time, these fun lessons can help you to have both personal and professional growth. Right now, they have also just published their lessons on how LLMs work, where they provide interactive content where you can explore how LLMs build vocabulary, choose their next word, and more. And if you want to revisit some of the Calculus 1 or 2 concepts, they have some of the best visualizations to help you learn or refresh your memory with, and maybe playing with Brilliant will help you build a super strong intuition that you'll never forget. So to try everything Brilliant has to offer for free for a full 30 days, visit brilliant.org/buycloud or click on the link down in the description. You will also get a 20% off an annual premium subscription. And thank you Brilliant for sponsoring this video. And if you like today's collection of papers, definitely check out my newsletter where I cover the latest and the hottest research papers that I might not even have time to make videos about. It is a weekly issue that contains both the latest AI research breakdowns and news, so don't miss out. Thank you for watching. A big shout out to Andrew Lescelius, Chris LeDoux, Deagan, Miguilim, Robert Zawiasa, Louis Muck, Ben Shaener, Marcelo Ferreira, and many others that support me through Patreon or YouTube. Follow me on Twitter if you haven't, and I'll see y'all in the next one.